The next project I want to work on is the gel coat on this boat. It's really faded and oxidized. I did some areas last year, but I want to do a better job this year. I only had automotive cutting compound last year, so I bought some Meguiar's One Step RV and Marine, so I'm going to set this up and see how that stuff works. As far as I can tell, there's nothing different about the way you run this compound. It's got instructions. I've got a wool pad I'm going to use. I've got wool and foam pads. I'm going to start with a wool pad and see how it does. Before we get started, there's some close-ups of the types of the condition of the hull on this boat. Some of the areas I'm going to address. So ideally everything will be this color when we're done, because that's the original color and not this chalky color. I'm by no means a professional boat refinisher or anything of that nature. I'm just going to use this cheap Harbor Freight, a wool pad, and I'm going to use the compound. This is basically a $30 or $40 buffer and some compound, so you could do this job for 60 bucks. If you want to do your own boat, you could do this, 60 bucks. This is a 1 month follow-up on the buffing I did on the Sea Ray here with the Meguiar's RV and Marine One Step. I'm pretty happy with the results I've got. Some of the chalkiness is coming back, but this is going to be a 50-year-old boat next year, so I would expect that. I did not do the other side yet. With these results, I'm going to go ahead and start doing the other side. So same process as before, just a cheap buffer with a wool pad and this Meguiar's One Step compound for RV and Marine. Let's get to it. So that covers the bulk of the work for buffing out the gel coat on this boat for this season. Like I said, I used Meguiar's number 67 RV and Marine. It's a one-step. So this gel coat hasn't been touched in probably 20 years. I know it hasn't been touched in 20 years because this boat sat in a field for 20 years before I got it. So I'll bring you in, show you what you can expect using this stuff on an old boat. So it did bring a lot of the gloss back, which is good, and it got rid of that white chalky. But what I will show you is right here, the original stickers were, so there is still a color difference, which means, you know, the one step did a good job at taking the chalkiness away, but to get that back to the original color, you'd have to do a wet sander. That wasn't my plan for the boat this year. I just wanted to take the chalk off it, and I wanted to do it cheaply. This one step, I live by the coast. This stuff's available at Harbor Freight for about $30. That's the stuff I used because it was basically $30 and a half a day of my time, and I'm able to go from that to that, which to me is a huge improvement. Hope you liked the video on the old Sea Ray here. This boat's about 50 years old, so I've been kind of bringing it back the last couple years. I did a ton of work on this boat that I wasn't able to record, but this boat has brand new floor, brand new transom. I went through the entire motor on it and replaced a ton of parts. It's got new starter, rebuilt carburetor, new tilt system on it, went through a full tune-up. I've done a ton of work on this boat. It's gonna be a continuing project for me, getting it back up and running, you know, to where it's reliable and I can take it out with the family. This boat sat for 20 years before I got it, and it's a 50-year-old boat, so it needs a ton of maintenance. There's always going to be videos on this boat, so if you got an old Sea Ray or old boat like this, subscribe, because I'm always going to be working on it. There's always going to be updated videos for it.